So now that we have the data on the state, we can start working with the data API instead of reading the data directly from memory. So we're going to kill this line, and we're going to go prepare an API endpoint on the backend instead. So if you remember in server.js, we prepared an API endpoint at /API and started preparing an API router module under API. Right now, we're returning an empty data array. So what we want to do here now is to have an API endpoint to serve the contests data. So we'll have this API endpoint under /contests so that we can get to it with /API/contests. Instead of sending data, we're just going to send contests. And in here, we're just going to read it from the same file directly. So I'm going to import data from test data, which is up one level from here under source/test data. And now the contests can be read with data.contests. So let's go ahead and test that. We go to /API/contests. And we get a list of contests here in an API. Cool. So now we need to use this list of contests from the React application. Right now, the React application has an error because we don't have data. And we're trying to use the data directly in here. So what we want is we want to do an AJAX request here and fetch the data from the remote API. And once we have the data, we make it available through the React state. So we need a library to do the AJAX request for us. One of the popular libraries to do so is this Axios library. So we're going to use it. The syntax is really simple. After you install Axios with npm, this is how you do it. So let's go ahead and first install Axios. And we're going to import it here in the React application. And inside component didMount, we're going to start with an axios.get call and specify the URL for the API endpoint that we're going to read. Since we're on the same server for now, it's going to be /API/contests. Axios is a promise-based, so this would give me a promise. And for every promise, we handle it with a .then method. And we also need to catch any error that happens in the promise. For catching the error, let's just console error it out. Inside the then method, Axios is going to give us a response object. This response object will have the data. So it's actually console.log response to make sure that we are receiving the data properly. I'll comment out this part of the code for now. And let's test. So it looks like I'm getting an object. This is the response object. It has some method like status OK. And my data is inside the response object here. So my contests data is response.data.contests according to the object that I'm receiving back. So what I need to do in this case, I need to take this exact statement that we used before to set the data directly from memory and actually set the data directly from the response object that I'm getting back from Axios. So set the state, the contests is going to be response.data.contests. And let's go ahead and test. Refresh. And the data is now being loaded through an AJAX request and getting set on the React component state.